Okay, so today we're going to go back to the basics for a minute, and we're going to address how to make your life a positive experience rather than a negative one. Go. Hey, welcome to the ION Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we understand the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I'm your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so I had a conversation just recently with a friend of mine who was telling me, man, your stuff is the greatest stuff on the planet. Your system of understanding life and existence and self and spirituality is the best. You take everything that Eckhart Tolle did and Wayne Dyer did and a lot of the past masters, Meister Eckhart, and you pile on top of it this really easy to understand thing. But the problem is you're not repeating it enough. It's a system that people will get and become intuitive with through repetition. And I thought about that for a minute. And I realized he's right. And one of the disservices that I think that I've done in this podcast is to race through all of the basics, and it's like this podcast has become a master's class recently about the bleeding edge of spirituality and enlightenment and expansion of consciousness. And while I won't abandon those master's class topics, the bleeding edge stuff, it is important to go back and hit some of the basics and not necessarily just reiterate the basics, but explain exactly how to use the basics to better your life, because that's what this is all about. If we're here multiple times or one time, it makes sense to make our time here the best possible time that we can, to have the most fun, to share the most joy, to increase the blessings of others as much as possible. And so, with that, I want to go back to some basics today. One of the first lessons that we talked about in the Body, Mind, Spirit 101 was about the equation of emotion. And the equation of emotion, we've drilled into it. We know what it is. It is expectation and or preference of something in our mind as compared to our reality as perceived, our perception, equals an emotional reaction. Your expectation about things as compared to your perception of things, if that is balanced, if they're the same, you have a positive emotion. If your expectation or preference about something is different than your reality as perceived, your perception of that, then you have a negative emotion. So your whole life could be this model. It could be boiled down to this. If life is meeting your expectations and or preferences, you have a great life. If your life isn't meeting your expectations or preferences, then you have a crappy life, at least from the perception of your mind. One of the cool things that Shakespeare said, there is no good or evil, only thinking makes it so. And that is extremely accurate. There is no good or evil. When you take the human out of the equation, let's just remove all human life from Earth. Is there good and evil when you take the human out of the equation? No. If you look at nature, nature's a constantly evolving process. It's a constantly birthing, growing, dying, reinventing process that serves itself. And, big catastrophic events, asteroids come and wipe dinosaurs off Earth, and then all of a sudden we have a new system that builds itself, right? So you take humans out of the equation. There is no good and evil. It's only our hubris that then creates the things that are good and evil. And the things that are good are the things that are positive for us, that are positive for our survival, that are positive for our happiness, the yada, yada, yada. And the things that are evil becomes the things that are stand against us, that stand against our survival, diseases and accidents and malice and all these things that could hurt us and that take away our happiness. But in reality, we're just a part of nature. We're just a part of the whole system. We're not at the top. We're not the most important. We're simply a cog in the entire system. And so the illusion of good and evil is just that. It's an illusion that the mind creates based on this equation of emotion. Now, if you want to have a positive life, or if you want to have a happy life, if you want to have a fun life, all you have to do is learn to manipulate this little equation right here. That's it. This never breaks. Never. So, using this, knowing these components, manipulating these components can create a positive life for us. It could create a happy life for us in general. If you're not having a good time, if you're not having a good day, if you're not having a good life, if you're in one of those down cycles of life situation, out of a job, money problems, relationship issues, whatever it is, if you change one of these two things, even though life may be less than you would want it to be ideally, you can change your whole attitude about your situation and pull yourself up out of your mired existence by your bootstraps. If you change your expectation or preference about certain things that are bothering you, whatever they are, it will change the resulting emotion in your mind. Now, emotions, of course, are a subconscious process. It simply happens depending on what these two things are right here, the expectation and or preference and your perception. But if you change these two things, you can control these things. You can't control this. You can't control the emotional reaction. It's a subconscious process. But if you can control your expectation and or preference about things, or you can control your perception, which is what the whole movement about positive psychology is all about. It's about and cognitive behavioral therapy and all that other stuff. If you change how you see things, or you change your expectations and or preferences, you will increase the positivity in your life, period. Regardless of what's going on, regardless of how things are going. You will be that person who is not just chipper on the outside, who's not just putting a good face on. You're going to feel it on the inside that I am good. Even though things may not be so great at this moment, I'm going to make them better. And you can do that by simply altering the variables in the equation of emotion. If you are in a bad relationship, let's say, and it's ending and you're sad and whatever, your perception about that, if you're focusing on the ending of the thing that was bad anyway, and you're mourning the loss of this thing that you saw as you, I was who I was in this relationship, and I'm losing the way things were, which if you go back to the episode on sadness, episode 13, you'll understand why sadness occurs in those situations. If you're focused on that, then yeah, you will be sad. You will have a tough time ending that relationship and going through all that stuff. And because every time you lose something else, every time you think about losing something else that was associated with that relationship, regardless of how bad it was, whenever you think about losing something else that was associated with that relationship, you will feel sad. But if you focus, however, on the amount of opportunity you now have to change your life and to go on and move forward and grow and be and do, all of a sudden, that's starting to meet your expectations and your preferences about life. I want to grow. I want better stuff for myself. I want to do cooler things. I want something better than this crappy relationship was before. That's going to create positive emotions. That's going to create a great deal of anticipation, of joy, even though you're losing whatever it is, the crappy relationship you're getting out of. Manipulate the variables in the equation of emotion, and it will make the difference between you leading a crappy life and a good life, and or being able to lead a good life and get through those crappy parts faster and quicker and with a better attitude. Because we make our world. We make our existence every day. And if you take control of that, making it, I mean, if you let the brain make it for you and create your perceptions and control your expectations and your preferences, you will be a victim of wherever it leads you that day. But if you take control of it and you manipulate the variables that lead into the subconscious process of emotional processing, right? Then it will improve your life to an exponential degree. This is it, right here. This one equation is what decides whether you have a positive experience or a negative experience. So use this. Use it daily. Ask yourself, what are my expectations or preferences? What is my perception? Whenever you're having a bad time about something, ask yourself those two questions and you will understand why you're having a bad time. And then you can change one or the other of the variables. And you will have a different emotion as a result. And it's that simple. I hope this message finds you guys well. I hope this message was a little more on point of being able to use some of the stuff that we've been talking about in the past. I will try to add these in more regularly, by the way, because taking this whole system that we talked about in the Body, Mind, Spirit 101 and applying it to life is what it's all about. I hope that you guys are having an awesome week, because I definitely am. And I want everybody to have that. And I want everybody to learn how to share that. So if you'd like, click the share buttons, send this to somebody who might be having a bad time, get them involved in the Body, Mind, Spirit 101 at IamSpirituality.com. Get them to sign up. You can quit. You don't have to buy anything. It's all free. You get those basics. You understand a little bit more about how stuff works within you and how you can increase the quality of your life moving forward, regardless of what your life situation is. Regardless. Because at the point that we can reduce the noise in your brain, picture it. It's a peaceful lake scenario. And there's no waves on the lake, maybe a few birds chirping, but you're sitting there on a bench and you're looking out over the leaves as they turn color in the fall over this peaceful lake scene, and it's nothing going on. It's very serene. You're very much at peace. Why is that scenario so peaceful, so calming? Because there's not a lot of noise going on. It's the absence of all the stuff that could be going on. It's the absence of the helicopters and the planes flying over. It's the absence of the kids that could be fighting next door outside. You know, it's the absence of all that stuff that could be ruining your calm, peaceful, serene situation. Well, the same is true for your mind. The same is true for the activity in your brain. And so if we take control of the things that are causing the turmoil and we get rid of them, all of a sudden you're left with a great amount of inner peace. I love you guys. Don't forget, you can pick up my book, How Emotions Work in Humans and Computers. My next book is going to be friggin' awesome. It's going to be coming out late this year, and it is going to be focused on how to take this information and make it better, make a better life out of it. So wait for that. I will be having an app coming out as well on iOS and probably Android. And we're also going to be offering some products in the future that might help particular niches, such as within business, how to take this and really build it to a good business foundation, that type of thing. I hope things are well for you guys. I love you. Peace.